Hey everyone, my name is Higgy. I wanted to do a quick video overview of Loom, an agent platform prototype that I recently built to simplify the process for building, deploying, and operating agents on AWS. I wrote a blog post which is available both on Medium and Substack, depending on your preferred blog platform. In that post, I outline a set of customer challenges that I commonly see as I work with large enterprises who are trying to build these kind of agent platforms. I walk through some key design considerations and trade-offs as I work through building each of those components. I then cover some few roadmap items that I plan to build into the project after this video. I also include a link to the code repository if you want to check out the implementation. At the end of the day, Loom is an agent platform, and I built it with three core tenets in mind. I built it to be simple. Many organizations are trying to scale agent deployments and integrate them with a variety of data sources, perhaps via MCP, and with other agents, perhaps via A2A. I built it with lots of opinions. This allows for a build that is both prescriptive and well-scoped. As such, I chose to implement using the Strands framework and to deploy onto Bedrock Agent Core. The implementation details are abstracted from the builder, meaning the builder doesn't need to write a single line of code, nor really needs to know much about Agent Core. Regardless, if those opinions don't align with your requirements, maybe at least it can serve as guidance on how you might do this with your own opinionated stack. And I attempted to build it with enterprise consideration in mind. Many organizations use a paved path or a golden path approach to using blueprints to define how resources are deployed in the cloud. Security, of course, is baked in with least privilege principles. Okay, so these are three of the core tenets of the prototype. Next, let me walk through three progressive architecture diagrams, building up how Loom is tested locally and progressively deployed into AWS. And I plan to have a follow-up video that'll actually walk through that test and deployment process in detail. Here in phase one, I can deploy I can test the whole Loom stack locally. So that front end, back end are running on my local machine, and all the data is stored in a SQLite database. The artifact, that zip artifact, will get deployed into S3. So this is your first interface into AWS. And then, of course, that artifact is deployed into Agent Core runtime. Throughout this whole process, Cognito is going to be used as the identity provider for vending tokens. Next, in phase two, I can shift the database backend into AWS, deploying into RDS Postgres, and using RDS proxy for connection pooling. Note that the RDS resources are hosted in a private subnet, or a set of private subnets, in a VPC. So in order to access them, I have to use an EC2 Bastion host coupled with Systems Manager, and this will allow me to tunnel from my laptop to that RDS database in that private subnet. This way, the front end and back end that are running local on my machine are able to access that database that is hosted privately in my VPC. And this is the stack that I'm going to use for this video. But of course, you want to transition to phase three, where that full stack is deployed into AWS with the front end interface, that backend fast API deployed as containers on Fargate. Those will be fronted by an application load balancer, where we'll terminate TLS with a certificate from ACM, and of course use Route 53 to forward traffic to that custom domain name. Okay, let's start up this environment, and let's actually do a demo of the platform itself. So let me switch over to my terminal. Okay. So as I had mentioned, first let me start up that tunnel. This will allow me to access that private VPC from my machine. Let me start up the backend API, which is going to connect to that database running in my VPC. And of course, let me start up the front end. Okay, so again, front end, back end, they're running locally on my machine, and I'm connecting to the database in my AWS account. So let's go ahead and log in. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to log into a test user just to get a view of what it looks like from a end user perspective. Okay, so The first thing you'll notice is that I have access to two agents. What you'll notice when we go into the admin view later is that each user is within a particular group, and I can only see agents in the same group. And here I only have two as a test user. When I click on a test user, you'll see that I can also get my conversation history. Right, so I can click on those and look at the prior conversations. Here, what I'll do is I'm just going to do a quick query, like any other chat interface. Tell me what Loom, the agent platform, does, and I'm linking actually to the GitHub repository. So what I would kind of expect here is, this test agent is connected to an MCP server. That MCP server actually has a tool that allows it to go and do web retrievals. So I would suspect that this agent is going to use that tool. It will go out and retrieve information from the repository. I suspect it will read probably the README, and then regurgitate some of that information back into here. All right, so you'll see that, again, you can actually go and refer to the GitHub repository, but this is effectively a bunch of the information that is in that repo. And you'll see, of course, it shares even information about deployment. Okay, so this is kind of that end user experience. Now let's switch over to the admin experience. And this is where we're going to actually build and construct a bunch of these agents. There are two different admin types that I've built into Loom. One is the demo admin, which has most of the administrative capabilities, but I've restricted it from doing one or two different functions, which I'll share once I log in. And then, of course, there is a super admin, which has full access. So let me go in as demo admin first and log in. And the first thing you'll see is that there's a list of a variety of different resources available in here. And I could even go into table view because maybe it's a little bit easier to see, but again, I've personally gotten accustomed to some of the tile view. I can also filter and actually see all of the different agents. And the other thing you'll notice here is that test agent has this little one bubble here. And that's an indicator that it actually has one active session associated with it. So if I actually come in here, you'll see that I could see the prior history of all sessions and who invoked it. You'll see that this one is in particular still active. And you'll see that I could see some of the invoke metrics. And these are all calculated by Loom. So these are all estimates of cold start duration, etc., and the last response that we saw as a test user. What I can also do now is I can actually click on the session ID and get a bunch of different observability things that I would expect. But this way we can get it all in a single view. So I could actually look at all of the CloudWatch logs, including vended logs that are associated with it. I can also actually get a list of all of the traces for this particular request. And this will allow me to go and look at, and observe, where was most of the time spent. And you'll see that these are the two spans where the majority of the time was spent. I could actually scroll down here and see that, 5 and 21 seconds. And of course, this is where we would expect the majority of the time was spent in responding to that. Okay. So this is a little bit of that general kind of operator experience. Let me pause and go to some basic capabilities here. First is around tagging. So many organizations, when they deploy resources into the cloud, have a tagging strategy. So with Loom, there are 3 platform required tags. One is application, second group, and third owner. There are also custom, because I can imagine maybe these are not the tags you want for your organization, so you can actually add your own set of tags. What I then do is I group tags as tag profiles. And tag profiles are then what are applied to resources that are deployed by Loom. So if we go down to test, you'll see that this was the one that was used for test user and resources deployed by that particular user. And you'll see this group attribute, and that is what is defining the resources that are allowed to be seen by that. Okay. All right, next is security. So demo admin doesn't have the ability to create roles or add new authorizers. That will be subject to the super admin, but they can view them. So here I could actually see the IAM policy. Maybe I'm troubleshooting something and I want to see what are the policy associated with my particular role. The reason for this is many organizations will have security admins who are responsible for managing this. And for now, at least, Loom does not have the ability to create roles. But security admins can log in and actually import them because maybe they have a separate system for doing this management. Again, I'm thinking about maybe in the future adding that capability, something to be determined. Similar on authorizers, again, I'm using Cognito for now. Here's the pool discover URL and the list of allowed clients. What I've also done is I've specified, here's that same client ID. I've provided the machine-to-machine credentials, that client secret as well. The client secret is not actually stored in the Loom database. What I do is actually I externalize that in AWS Secrets Manager. So this way, no sensitive secrets or credentials are stored in the Loom database. So the reason for this is these are the only roles, and this is the only authorizer that is allowed for configuration in Loom. So this allows security administrators to constrain what the builders are allowed to use. Okay. Next is on the MCP side. You'll see that I have one pre-configured MCP server. The demo admin is allowed to add a new MCP server. And so here you'll see we have just the server name or the Loom identifier, the endpoint URL, and then SSE versus streamable. And of course, you would expect OAuth 2. I've created a little convenience function in here, paste JSON. So you could imagine as an admin, I create these JSON documents. Of course, I've redacted the client secret. If I hit apply, it will actually go and apply into this environment. So let me actually paste the proper client secret. I could then go and actually test that connection to ensure that this OAuth 2 configuration is correct, and then I can go ahead and create it. Okay. Similar on the A2A side, I could do very similar. So I have a pre-configured multi-agent configuration that is fronted by an A2A orchestrator. I'm going to effectively add the same thing back. Again, it's very similar to MCP. Again, I've redacted the client secret. I'll hit apply. I'll actually apply the actual client secret and then test that connection. And then I'll go ahead and register. Okay, so this is similar to MCP and A2A, and this is the way to configure Loom to be able to do this. In the future, I do plan to do an integration with some registry capability as well. Okay, next, let's actually configure an agent that we're going to go ahead and use. So first, let me create a memory resource. So I'm going to go into the memory administration dashboard. I'll remove the filter. I'm going to add, and again, here we see, again, the Loom name, description, event expiry. You'll see that it's defaulted to a tag profile. This is because I'm logged in as demo admin 9, but in other situations, you'll be able to actually select that tag profile, and you'll see it will automatically apply this set of tags. I can also add long-term strategies, right? So the name, the description, the type, along with the namespace. But again, similar to before, I'm going to actually go ahead and use the paste JSON strategy here. So I'm going to apply this, and you'll see that I've created two long-term strategies. One is summary and user preference with those respective namespaces. I'm going to go ahead and create that. What I found anecdotally is it takes about 3 minutes for a memory resource to create. What we'll do is while that's creating, I'm going to go ahead and actually create the agent as well. So I'm going to go into the agent side while that's creating. Go ahead and click add agent. And again, very similar form as others. Agent name. You'll see that for system prompt, in theory, this could be a single text box. What I've done here is I've created 3 separate text boxes to ensure that the builder is being very intentional about information that is being put into the system prompt. Here I can select the model. So for now, I've just put in Anthropic and Amazon models. For now, I'm only supporting HTTP, but you can imagine configuring MCP and A2A, although I think I'll more likely do that via the registry mechanism. Again, coming soon, I'm going to implement support for VPC configurations. And then here's those 5 IAM roles that I showed before in that security tab, similar on the authorizer side. Again, you'll see the tag profile, and then these are the integrations. So these are the MCP servers that we had configured, similar to the A2A agent, along with the memory resources. And you'll see that this demo YouTube 9 is the one that we had just started creating. Okay, again, I'm going to do this paste JSON. And we're going to hit apply, and you'll see that I filled in all of the information here. I'm going to collapse this because we've already looked at the permissions, the cognito, and you'll see that I've selected, maybe I'll actually select the YouTube MCP server, maybe the instructor that I just set up, and we're going to use the memory resource that we're in the process of creating. All right. What I found out anecdotally on this side is that it takes about a minute for an agent deploy onto Agent Core runtime. So we'll give that a minute. What I'll then do is while these are going, I'll switch back over to the catalog view. this way I could see the full list. So we see the full list of agents, and you'll see, actually, maybe I'll filter by demo since we're in the demo group right now. Demo YouTube 9 is actually creating right now, and the memory resource is still creating. So that'll probably be about another minute. What I found with creating agents on Agent Core Runtime is first it will go through the first phase, which tends to take the longest time, is it'll build the artifact. So for Loom right now, I'm using the zip deployment strategy. So what I do is I create a zip artifact of a pre-built strands agent with all of the dependencies. I'll create a zip file. What will then happen is I will upload that into S3, as I showed in the previous slide. It will then deploy, which it looks like it's doing now. It will deploy into Agent Core Runtime and then create that runtime endpoint. So it looks like it's completing the deployment now and should be done soon. Let's check. Oh, so it looks like the memory resource has completed. And this one will hopefully be completed soon. And then we will take a look at, so it looks like that one just completed, no sessions here. What I could then do is I could either invoke this as the admin or as the demo user, but let's do that. Let's switch over to demo user now. So I'm gonna log in as demo user 9. Let's log in. And again, remember demo user 9 is part of the demo group. And here you'll see that I see a bunch of the demo agents, right? And so these are all the ones that are tagged with that group. And here's demo YouTube 9, which we just created. And what I'll do is I'll just do a very basic call. Again, this is more of a toy example. I maybe should have done this with the time zone because I think it's going to mention it in UTC. But again, demo YouTube 9 agent, we configured it with that MCP server, that YouTube MCP server that we had just configured. And again, it's basically the same one as before. And it has a set of tools. And one of those tools is for getting the time. And again, we could even just do like, what's the weather in New York City? We'll queue that up so that once that one completes, it will go ahead and do it. I don't know why it did that twice. That's a little bit of a bug. What we can also do is, I don't know if, so it looks like we got some of the prior weather conditions. I don't know if we have prior conversation history on this user. Maybe we don't. Oh, maybe that was a visual glitch. But this is, again, the user experience. What I'll do now is I'm going to switch over to the super admin and show some of the capabilities that maybe the demo admin wasn't able to do. So again, here I can actually add a role. And here I'm just going to add the ARN for the role. And then again, you need to associate that tag profile. Again, you'll see that these have those different tag profiles. One thing that I've also done is I've created a cost estimate dashboard. Again, I'm going to emphasize here estimates. So this is all what Loom is calculating in terms of usage. So it does it across 3 different dimensions. One is around token usage. The other is around Agent Core runtime usage. And then the last is around Agent Core memory usage. So I have a bunch of these calculations in here. One thing you'll note is for runtime, like the CPU calculation in particular has this IO weight value here. Because if you're sitting on IO weight, basically, Agent Core runtime won't charge you for that. This is something we need to, of course, estimate. So I've configured a setting in here. I've defaulted it to 75%. But again, based on whatever your organization is observing, you can adjust and tweak that. So if and again, it's kind of filled in up here as well. So this is an estimate. And again, you can kind of see this on a per agent basis. What I've also done is I can actually go and retrieve the OTel actual logs. So what's actually happening here is we're going to actually go and pull usage logs. So these are those vended logs on a per agent basis. It will go and look and get all of the specific usage metrics, and then we'll go and try to do a calculation. So while that's going, because it could take a little bit of time because I have a number of agents here, you'll see that in the estimates, I actually include not just the cost, but the basis by which those costs were actually calculated. So for model tokens, I have input and output tokens. For runtime, I have the CPU and memory calculation. And then for memory, the short-term, long-term memory. And then I actually calculate a per invoke. So it looks like it went and retrieved it. What I can now do is I can look at each of the agents. And for test agent, you'll see that I can look at each session for those agents and how much each of those sessions actually cost. Again, it is based on usage metrics, but I would still consider this an estimate. Again, your actual bill will be the authority on how much these things cost, but it at least gives you a sense of how much this is costing you. And similar, I do this on the memory side. You're charged by long-term retrievals and records stored, and again, it gives you that estimate there. Okay, all of these are estimates that Loom is tracking on your behalf. And last but not least, I also created an admin dashboard. I wanted to kind of check and see how is Loom actually being used. So the number of logins, page views, etc. And I can start to evaluate like what are the most active pages. So for whatever reason, it looks like catalog is perhaps the most obvious because that is the default page, but memory seems to be one where there was a decent amount. I could look at different sessions. So this admin session that we just logged in on, I could see the different actions that I've taken in here. So again, this just gives me the ability to try to understand. It's kind of like my clickstream data for Loom. And this might actually help me do some troubleshooting if users are having problems. Okay, I hope this was a helpful overview for Loom and its capabilities and how you actually get it up and running. Again, really want to thank you for spending the time on this video. And I look forward to actually producing another one where I'll actually talk through and spend some time on the testing and installation process. So thank you very much and hope this was helpful. Hope you give it a try.